Good evening. My name is Alan Swain, and I'm trying to be your voice for Congressional District 2, Wake County, Wake Strong, as we say in our campaign slogan logo. We're happy to have another hard-hitting series tonight to discuss ongoing events within the state of North Carolina, Wake County, and actually for our nation with regard to the COVID crisis and things of that nature. We're fortunate to have with us tonight Mike Causey, the Commissioner of Insurance. He's the North Carolina Insurance Commissioner and State Fire Marshal. He's a native of Guilford County, where he still lives with his wife, Hisse, on the farm where he grew up. He studied at Wake Tech, went to UNC Charlotte and High Point University, where he graduated with degrees in civil and environmental engineering and continued his MBA studies at High Point University. Mike is a businessman with more than 25 years in the insurance industry and as an agent manager, supervisor, and agency owner, He's a veteran of the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service, Mike, where he served as a military policeman and played trombone in the Army band. So he's multi-talented. Mike's goal as commissioner is to fight for more competition in the industry and to combat insurance fraud to drive rates lower for the North Carolina consumer. He is also passionate about making the office more consumer friendly to help residents attain their insurance needs. Mike, we welcome you for this evening. It's a chance for not only the people of North Carolina to get to meet you, but also for a chance for us to get to know you much better because of your past experience and what you've done for us as our current Commissioner of Insurance. But as you get ready for the big fight we've got over the next few months, not only me as the candidate for Congressional District 2 for Congress, but you for the North Carolina County Commissioner of Insurance. So, Mike, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alan. It's a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity to join you, and it's an honor and privilege for me to serve as your Insurance Commissioner and State Fire Marshal. What I'd like to do is tell you a little about what the Department of Insurance does, because very few people understand it, Alan. First of all, people can go to the website, which is NCDOI for North Carolina Department of Insurance.com or .gov. So NCDOI.com or NCDOI.gov will give you more information than you probably want to know about the department. You already mentioned that I serve as the State Fire Marshal. North Carolina does more firefighter certifications than any other agency in the world, except for the Federal Department of Defense. Most people don't realize this. We have over 1,250 fire departments in North Carolina, and the vast majority of our firefighters are volunteer firefighters. And our volunteer fire departments are struggling to recruit volunteers and to retain volunteers. And I've been working during my tenure to help the volunteer fire departments in this area as much as possible. Most people don't realize we're also in charge of engineering codes. We're the chief building inspector for the state. We're over the State Building Code Council. We regulate manufactured housing, that's mobile homes and modular homes. We regulate collection agencies, regulate bail bondsmen and surety bondsmen. So there's a long list of things that are regulated by the Department of Insurance, and that includes all types of insurance policies, insurance agents, and the insurance companies. So it's a huge area of responsibility. We license over 680,000 licenses a year to different areas, from electrical contractors to insurance agents to bail bondsmen. So one of the main things that, since I took office, my goal was to make the department more user-friendly. And I'm proud to tell you, Alan, that in 2019, Department of Insurance helped over 250,000 people in North Carolina get help on insurance claims or other issues where they contact our office either filing complaints or other things. That's probably more than you wanted to know, but that's a quick overview of the department. I am running for re-election, and I will say that I'm the first Republican ever elected to this office, and that's in 117 years, from 1899 to 2016. This was a one-party rule department. Not only am I the first Republican insurance commissioner in North Carolina, I'm the first non-attorney insurance commissioner. My predecessors have all been attorneys. I believe I'm the only one that actually has actual hands-on experience in the insurance industry as an agent, an agency manager, and working with the insurance departments and companies directly. I am running for re-election in 2020. I want people to go to my campaign website, which is MikeCausey.com. That's my name, MikeCausey.com, and like us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. But we really need people, Alan, to go across the state with their friends and their family and send out my campaign website, because we do need people in every county. This is a tough election cycle. My predecessor is a career politician that's currently chairman of the North Carolina Democratic Party. He's got lots of money from liberal interest groups coming in from around the country and maybe from around the world. So we need all the help we can get to win this in November and keep this seat as a red seat. So thank you, Alan, for having me.
Mike, it's interesting because, under these COVID times, you're running a campaign, even though you're up for re-election, I'm up for first time as a Congressional District 2. Learning how to campaign using Zoom and other options that we have for fundraising and things of that nature, getting the word out. You're fortunate being the incumbent based on your track record and everything else, and we'll get into that. But I want to go back to the beginning of COVID-19. You warned against many scams where scammers were using the crisis to take advantage of people. Do you still feel that these threats will continue, or are they continuing now? Can you give us an update on that?
Oh, yes. These insurance scams are growing weekly. People need to be on high alert when you get phone calls or emails or anything offering something, sometimes offering something for nothing. Let me just say, when we first heard about this coronavirus, nobody had heard of it before. It was the end of January, 1st of February. One of the first things I did was to reach out to the health insurance companies and ask them to meet with the medical providers and see what we could do to help people that might be afraid to go to the doctor's office. We needed to get telehealth approval for people that might not be able or want to go physically to the doctor's office. And I'm happy to say that happened early on, where the insurance industry did approve health insurance payments for people that visit the doctor by telephone or computer through telehealth. The next thing I did was talk to the CEOs of a number of insurance companies, and after the shutdown and where people were working from home in many cases, the insurance companies had informed me that they were actually saving money by people driving less and having fewer accidents. So I asked the insurers if they could pass these savings along to consumers. Most of those companies did that in the form of premium dividends back to the policyholders in the way of checks or discounts or that type thing. And the other thing I did was ask actually sent a directive out to the insurance companies that they could not cancel anybody's policy in cases of financial hardship due to coronavirus. And if anybody had a financial concern because they were laid off or so forth, all they needed to do is contact their agent or company and their premium would not be forgiven, but it would be deferred. And we had that as a benefit to consumers also.
That's great. I appreciate that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and getting that word out to our consumers is probably the most important thing. You can use social media, but there's a lot of people always concerned because there are a lot of, especially elderly, that are concerned about some of the scammers, which we have even in pre-COVID times, but they're probably more prevalent now during COVID. As a member of the Council of States, this is something that a couple of people wanted me to make sure I asked you. How receptive or how much have you been able to influence or not be able to influence the governor with regard to things you need to be doing in as Commissioner of Insurance? Because there's a lot of concern that a lot of that's being done in the back rooms, and your availability to talk and make statements with regard to protecting our insurance industry in the state has been fallen by the wayside.
Well, that's a good point, Alan. As a member of the Council of State, there's 6 Republicans and 4 Democrats on the Council of State. Actually, 2016 was the first time that Republicans gained the majority for the first time ever on the Council of State. And up till early this year, the Council of State meetings had been in person, and there were always agendas set, which was voting for things like property transfers, buying or purchasing of state property, that sort of thing that has to come before the Council of State. So I'd say the working relationship was very good. Once the coronavirus hit, though, we had to resort to video conferencing like we're doing tonight. We were using mostly Microsoft Teams, I believe, for the Council of State meetings. And there have been some concerns in the past couple of months, about communication. So we have another meeting this week, and we'll find out how that goes. But I think there are some concerns sometimes about communication. But overall, we've had pretty good communication and pretty good working relationship up to this point. I will say that the coronavirus, not only the media, but a lot of government officials certainly did an outstanding job of instilling fear in the population early on. And that's why you saw so many companies having their employees work from home. A lot of state agencies had their employees work from home. But I'll tell you, for the past 6 weeks, I've been on the road traveling this state from one end to the other, and I've met firefighter after firefighter. I've probably shook over 500 hands in the last 6 weeks. Now, I know it's not politically correct to say that, but not in all cases. If I have respect for others, so if they today, it was in Forsyth County, and the policy was to wear a mask. We did that in the emergency command center. But we go to some of these rural counties, and it's like going to a different world because there's not as much concern. And it's not that people aren't concerned about coronavirus. I think more people are concerned about their livelihood and their incomes, their loss of income, and that type thing. So we have to put it all in perspective. But I can tell you, I have personally talked with about a dozen firefighters that did have coronavirus. As you know, our state treasurer, Dale Falwell, had that also. And most of those firefighters that I talked with told me that the symptoms were very little, not even like a cold, that they lost the sense of taste or sense of smell for a few days. They were sometimes tired, but there was no physical sickness like a bad flu or a bad cold. So I think if you look at the reality of what's going on when they're talking about all these positive cases, it's a very low percentage of the total population. And actually the death toll is decreasing. So we have to put everything in perspective and not be fearful, but let's look at the facts.
I totally agree, and thank you for that. Yeah, there's been a lot of concern, and you see a lot on Facebook and some of the websites and even in the press, concerned about whether or not while there's different parties, like you said, 6 Republicans, 4 Democrats, how receptive has the governor been to his council of states? I mean, the reason why we have the council of states is you're supposed to be our insurance expert. So if you feel that the governor is listening to you about your concerns and what you're recommending, those are the kinds of things that the people of North Carolina are concerned about, because how could you not convene the Council of States when we're in the middle of a pandemic crisis? That's really more the big question about that. But I thank you for that. In fact, we had Dale Falwell on about a month and a half ago, right after he got released, which was kind of amazing. He was still coughing a little, but he told us about the state of play with what's been going on with the pensions and things of that nature. So we're trying to do that across the board and we actually want to bring in public instruction here shortly, because the best thing we can do as a future congressman for this district, for this state, for representing the state of North Carolina, is to get the message out to the North Carolinians that are of concern, so they know that we're trying to do the things to get the right key leadership involved and on camera so they can ask you specific questions of your expertise. So I thank you for that. Here's something with everything going on, with COVID going on, increasing in numbers like you were talking about with positives, but with the death rate still staying low and the hospital occupancy. A lot of people going in the hospitals today are pent up because of some non-essential surgeries. So they're filling some of our beds. We understand that, but there still is some concern. Now we got a lot more people going to beaches and things of that nature. So what do you have any key message for safety, wearing the multiple hats you do for the summer, particularly with regards to water safety? Do you have anything that you want to bring up to the people of North Carolina?
Well, as you know, in the summer we have a lot of drownings. We have other safety issues through the Department of Insurance, through our Safe Kids North Carolina program. This is a summertime issue, but making sure that people are aware of children or pets that are in their car, because every year we have children that die from being left in a hot car. We've already had that happen here in North Carolina, in Ellerby, North Carolina, where a 22-month-old child was left in a hot car. And these are preventable deaths, and certainly water safety. I don't know what the beaches will do. A lot of our fire departments have control of the lifeguarding duties at our beaches, so we work closely with them. But my message would be to be respectful of others, but don't be fearful. Get out and enjoy the summer, enjoy the fresh air, because the fresh air and sunshine is not going to hurt any of us.
That's great. That was very sad to lose that young 22-month-old. I heard some tips, you've heard this over the years, is the best thing for you to do is leave your computer bag, your pocket, your purse, something in the back seat that forces you to go back to the back seat to notice that, oh my gosh, my child is here, and I almost walked away from my child. So those kinds of little safety tips go a long way, because everything we do, as I'm a grandparent, but when I was raising my children, you always think about those kinds of things. But one momentary lapse, and sometimes it's cabin fever from COVID, a person just might not be in his full right mind and thought he was just going to the store, but he forgot he took his child with him to go pick up some groceries and things of that nature. So getting that message out is probably critical to saving just one life, if not every life. And I agree with you. So thank you for that. In your tenure as the Commissioner of Insurance, what have you done over the last few years, pre-COVID and during COVID, to combat insurance fraud?
Well, one thing, Alan, when I took office, first place I went to was to visit our law enforcement. We do have sworn law enforcement officers in the department. They're actually state police officers. They can make arrests in any county in North Carolina, criminal investigators, arson investigators. And the question that I asked was, how bad is insurance fraud in North Carolina? And it was worse than I thought. I was told that the department receives over 20 criminal complaints a day. That was over 5,000 serious criminal complaints a year. When I asked how was the department doing when it comes to arrests, prosecutions, and convictions, they told me they were only able to fully investigate 12%. Now, to me, that's a problem when you're not investigating fully 88% of that many criminal complaints. I asked why we had the problem, and it was simply we didn't have enough law enforcement officers to cover the state. So I went to worked with the legislature. We're a self-funded agency. We bring in hundreds of millions of dollars to the general revenue coffers every year. We bring in a lot of money from license fees, fines, penalties, and so forth. So I asked the legislature to work with me, and we did get approved funding in 2017 to allow me to double the number of our law enforcement officers. So we went from 20 sworn law enforcement officers to over 44 today. And it's paying off for the people because we're bringing in more revenue in terms of fines and penalties. Not only that, we're getting the crooks off the street and helping to keep down our insurance rates. So my opponents may be about defunding the police, but I'm not. I believe we need to increase our support to our police departments because if somebody calls 911, they need a quick response, not a 5-day response.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I mean, and those are the kinds of things that, I mean, there's always something going on with regard to insurance fraud. I'm sure it's a 24/7 job, whether it was pre-COVID or during COVID. But let's switch over to kind of what has your office done in response to, and you kind of touch on it, in response to COVID-19's impact on the industry. You talked about talking with insurance companies and some rebates or reduction in monthly premiums to the people because they're not driving as much. But let's talk about the businesses that have insurance because I'm a successful small business entrepreneur myself. When you're trying to make payroll and you're trying to pay your rent if you don't own your place, and then you have these insurance premiums that come up, what is the state or what can we do to help people keep their livelihoods? Because their businesses are their livelihoods. There are a lot of people that live and breathe what happens with their company, their small businesses. What has your office been able to do to help them?
That is very true. And as you said, one of the things we do at the department is spend a lot of time helping small business owners find the right policies, making sure they have proper coverage. And I'll give you an example. We had in Denton, North Carolina, the Old Time Threshers reunion that's held on July 4th every year. The owners did not have insurance. The insurance company failed to renew their insurance policy covering the events. And I won't go into all the reasons, but in order for them to open for the 4th of July, they had to have coverage. So our office did help talk with the owners. Other agents were involved, and those folks were able to find coverage that allowed that event to take place. One of the many calls we've received about the COVID-19 or coronavirus has been these business that were required to close, the restaurants, the gyms, the spas that may have had business interruption policies. And while some of those may have gotten some payments for closing a couple of days for cleaning up and so forth, generally speaking, business interruption policies excludes pandemics. And that's something that need to be worked on in the future. I think we're going to have to look at it like we did previously with terrorism insurance. In the past, terrorist acts were not covered by insurance. That got changed to where they are policies now that cover terrorism. And I just would urge people to call their agents, or call their insurance companies, or call the Department of Insurance if they have questions about their particular policy and what's covered and what's not.
That's great. Great advice, and I appreciate that. We got another question in here. They're wondering, with everything you have to do as the Commissioner of Insurance for the state of North Carolina, how many employees do you have in your department, and where are they based out of? Are they all over the state or just in Raleigh?
We're all over the state. We have our main office is in Raleigh in the Albemarle building. We're right beside the state legislature on the corner of Salisbury and Lane Street, 11-story Albemarle building. We have offices in Wilmington, the Charlotte, Gaston County area, Asheville, and Archdale in Randolph County. We have agents, criminal investigators, arson investigators that actually work out of their homes from all corners of the state. We have a total of 610 employees, and that it does include the Industrial Commission, which is sort of like an independent agency that's housed under us. And it includes the Office of State Fire Marshal and all the other divisions within the Department of Insurance.
Okay, well, that's great. I didn't realize you're that big. That's pretty impressive. But you got a lot of work to do, so I can understand why you have that large of a force. One question that came in, do you have influence over insurance rates such as vehicle and homeowners, or do you just negotiate with them to try and minimize the impact on us as consumers?
Thank you, Alan. That's a good question. And the insurance commissioner in North Carolina does not have the authority to set rates. We have an independent group. It's called the North Carolina Rate Bureau, which was created by the legislature. So I tell people if they don't like the system that we have, they need to talk to their state legislators about anything they would like to see changed. We've made a lot of changes to make the rate making process more of a free market system than it had been. I do have the authority as commissioner to say yes or no. So when I get a rate request from the North Carolina Rate Bureau, legally, all I can do is say yes or no. And I will tell you, I've always said no. The Rate Bureau has come back to us, sat down and talked about it, and any rate changes we had have been through the negotiation process as opposed to going to court.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. One person has asked a question, what are some examples of problems consumers have that can be fixed by your department? If a person has a concern, well, why should they be calling your insurance department?
That's a good question too. As I said, in 2019, we helped over 250,000 people in North Carolina that called our office for one reason or another. But here's a couple of examples. I got a letter earlier this year from a well-educated man in Western North Carolina. He held a PhD and other degrees, and he just wrote me this letter thanking me for what the department had done to help him. And basically, he had been in an accident. His insurance company and the other person's insurance company were in this battle. He had been involved in the middle for 5 months. So for 5 months, he was frustrated, no results, and out of desperation, he contacts the Department of Insurance, files a formal complaint. And in his letter to me, he says, in less than 1 week, I received phone calls from both insurance companies and I had my check in my hand. Thank you. Those are the types of feedback I get from consumers. I had another one from the Wilkes County area about a week ago where they were at a stalemate on a claim on a car accident. This was an older car, and the insurance company had said they were going to pay $4,200, rock bottom, that's it. And the person kept saying, this car is worth double that, way more than double. And other people had said the same thing. The value of this car is way more than the insurance company proposes to pay. I gave it to our consumer division. They made the phone calls, got involved, and I got a call from the car owner that said he had received a check for $9,000. So that was larger than normal. Usually it's more like within $1,000 or something difference that something was overlooked. But those are, on the top of my head, specific examples of why it pays to call the department and let us help.
Well, that's great. That's great. I thank you for what you guys are doing to help out the consumers. That's what it's all about, I would say. This question came in, more question about, does insurance fraud affect our rates? And if so, what is being done to stop it? What does your office try and do to halt that type of fraud?
Insurance fraud definitely affects rates. There's different studies that have been done, not only from the FBI and other agencies that study crime, but estimates recently have shown that we're all paying for insurance fraud to the tune of 18 to 20 cents of every dollar that we pay for insurance premiums is going to cover fraud. So if you don't put pressure on fraud and work to stamp out fraud, that means our insurance rates are going to go up and up because of fraud. So as I said, we have really been tough on fraud since day one of me taking office, and I've doubled the number of law enforcement that's out there. I also did something that had never been done at the department. I hired 3 attorneys that are prosecutors that can work with the district attorneys and actually prosecute these cases. And I'll put in this little plug. I've got CBS, the CBS show 48 Hours is coming to North Carolina to interview me next week on a case, a murder case that we're working on. I won't go into the details here, but you can look it up. It's called the Eye Drop murder case in Gaston County, where a husband killed his wife for the insurance money. And he did it through eye drops, and I'll leave it at that. But the eye drop murder case is a fascinating case that we're working on. We're actually going to prosecute the case in court with the blessings of the district attorney in Gaston County. So that's the type of thing. It's the only murder case that I've been involved with in my tenure, but it's something I think people will find fascinating.
That sounds, well, thank you guys again for what you do with trying to combat insurance fraud. My wife and I will probably watch that 48 CBS hours mystery, because we're big on watching those types of incidents when it comes down, especially to insurance fraud. So I'll make sure I take a look at that. I was interested when I was reading about your background and what the insurance commissioner does, and it said that you're the state fire marshal. In fact, I read that inside your bio. Can you tell me what the state fire marshal does and why is it so important to the state of North Carolina? Because a lot of people don't realize how critical you are with regard to that hat you wear and what you oversee and do in that position.
Thank you, Alan. There's a direct correlation with the ratings inspection that your local fire department has and what you pay for homeowners insurance within that fire district. So the better your local fire department rating, better you do when it comes to premiums for homeowners insurance. And when I took office in 2017, I asked a lot of questions. I had heard a lot of complaints from fire chiefs around the state during my campaign that they hadn't seen anybody from Raleigh in 20, 25 years. I asked about their fire safety inspections, and a lot of these chiefs said, well, it's been a long time. I don't recall the last time we've been inspected. So when I took office, I met with the Office of State Fire Marshal. Nobody had a clear answer, so I got a printout of all the fire departments. At that time, there was 1,351 fire stations across our 100 counties. And when I got a printout of the last inspection for those fire departments, we had fire departments that had not been inspected in 25 years as far as a fire ratings inspection. There was one in down east in Craven County, had been about 28 years. So I asked why we were so far behind. The answer was we only had 5 people in the Office of State Fire Marshal to travel the whole state to do those inspections. There again, I went to the legislature, got approval to hire 3 additional fire inspectors. So we went from 5 to 8 in 2017, and we have caught up that entire backlog fire department inspections. And I will tell you that over 300 fire departments in this state have received upgraded fire ratings. Some real notable ones are Wilson County. Wilson, North Carolina Fire Department went to a Class 1. That's on the same level with fire departments in Charlotte, Greensboro, and Raleigh. So a lot of these rural fire departments have received upgraded ratings. And when this happens, in many cases, the policyholders in those districts get a reduction in their homeowners' premium. So that has been a big help to a lot of folks in different areas.
You know, those kinds of comments about showing what you did, you went to bat for the people of North Carolina by getting those 3 additional inspectors to be able to do those inspections. That's the kind of stuff, as you continue your campaign, you need to show that you've made a difference where you saw something lagging in your predecessor and what you're doing, because those are the kinds of things that are going to show this man means business and he's trying to protect us and reduce our home premiums.
That's right. And sometimes it's a little thing that means so much when you put it into practice.
No, I hardly concur. And I learned, I'm going to ask you this, because what percentage play would you say do the volunteer firemen or departments play in our total for meeting the needs of what we think we need for the state of North Carolina? That's just something I'd like to know.
It's huge. It's close to 70%. Across this state, it's a little under 70, but we'll just say it's close to 70% of the firefighters in North Carolina are volunteers, and that's true all across the country. If a county had to pay for the services of a volunteer fire department, they probably couldn't afford it, because each volunteer fire department is worth millions of dollars to that county. So that's why I went to Blue Cross and Blue Shield early this year to ask for additional help for our volunteer fire departments. We do matching grants from our office, and every year we have more grant requests than we have grant money, and the grant limit is $30,000. And if that fire department gets a $30,000 matching grant, they have to raise $30,000. So this year it amounted to about $8.5 million. We knew we'd have more requests than we had money, so I asked Blue Cross if they would consider helping, and they donated $500,000 to our neediest fire departments, which we have distributed to 100 rural small fire departments in some of our poorest area at $5,000 each. And it's not a matching grant, it's an outright grant to help them pay for equipment or past due bills, that type thing.
It's interesting to hear. And of course, tonight was to get everyone to know, meet Mike Causey, your commissioner of insurance, but the hat you wear with regard to how you interlink now your insurance with the premiums. It's fed off of how well you do as a state fire marshal And the fact that you've upgraded rating wise the insurance, not the insurance, the fire departments to improve the home ownership reduction in homeowner rates, those things go a long way that people just don't understand how they're interconnected. So you've done a great job in helping us there. I think the big thing I would tell you is the fact that you've been able to do these kinds of things, get the state legislatures to help you increase your inspectors, to make a difference with the fire department, to reach out and find those kind of additional matching grants. Those kinds of things go a long way in what you've done. So I guess in all the things you said that you've been able to accomplish since you took over, what would you say was your biggest accomplishment in your tenure thus far in this term? And what is your top priority going forward when you're reelected in November?
Again, I think that helping the large number of policyholders that we've helped when it comes to getting their claims paid and helping the hurricane victims from Hurricane Florence, those are some that stand out in my mind. But I'll have to say the accomplishment where I'm most proud is the restructuring of what we've done with our law enforcement, our criminal investigations division. I set up a whole new group called the Fraud Control Group, which under that's our criminal investigation division, bail bond regulatory division, our legal prosecution team, and a special services review division to review cases to see if they go to criminal or if it's a civil matter. So those are the things that we've done at the department. I've cut the red tape. We've streamlined the department to make it more user-friendly. And the attitude we have is just to help people. We're here to help.
That's great.
Somebody's calling now to ask for help.
Yeah, I just heard that. I heard that. I thought it might be on my end. I said, nope, there's no phone near me. So that's great. I'm sure your phone rings all the time. You're up against a formidable opponent. He's had the job before. This is not going to be easy. You're going to have to talk about the things like you've discussed tonight, the things that you've accomplished, but that you're not yet finished and what you want to do going forward. But tell us about your opponent and why do you consider him to be formidable? Because, you know, no election, and just because you're the incumbent does not make a difference. Because a lot of people are going to ask, what does Mike Causey do for me next? So I vote for him on 3 November. And this is a chance for you to tell us about your opponent.
Alan, I think anybody that's dealt with the Department of Insurance over the past 3 or 4 years can tell you they've had great customer service. They're greeted with a smile, and our attitude is we're here to help. If it's not in the policy, they're not going to get paid for it. But if it is covered in the policy, we'll make sure they get paid for it. It was a tough election in 2016. I was the underdog. The incumbent was a 2-term incumbent with a lot of money. I believe he had about $2 million or close to that. We had very little money, but we focused on rural counties and reached out to Latino groups and other groups that could help us bring some votes. And out of 4.5 million votes, I was able to win by less than 36,000. So that's how tight it was in 2016. My opponent is a career politician, served in the legislature prior to going to the Department of Insurance. When he left this office, he went right to work as the chairman of the North Carolina Democratic Party. So he has a big microphone that reaches all over the country to these liberal groups that want him back in power. He's been able to stay in the job as chairman while running for re-election. He says running for re-election for a 3rd non-consecutive term, but he really wants this job back in the worst way. We need help. People going to our website, MikeCauseyNC.com, donating $5, $10, whatever, sending it to your friends. We probably can't match the big career politician, dollar for dollar in the fundraising department. But I think I'll let people look at our record, and I ask people to vote on that record and what we've accomplished over the past 4 years.
That's great. I appreciate that. I'm going to come back to a final here in a little bit, but I got one more question at least. I'm waiting to see if any more show up in the chat room, but to give you a chance to close as to why Mike Causey and what you want to do going forward for these next less than 4 months for both of us now. As commissioner, you stood up for fighting, doing things the right way and promoting law and order. How does your effort to find fraud and corruption in insurance tie into law and order issues that face our state today?
One of my top priorities, Alan, has been to fight fraud and corruption. I took the oath like every elected official, where I put my hand on the Bible and raised my hand and swore to protect and defend the Constitution of North Carolina and the Constitution of the United States. I did my duty, I believe, in every aspect. You look at the Lindbergh case, there's something that I really don't talk about much because there's still an ongoing federal investigation there. But Mr. Lindbergh was found guilty of bribery in the federal court. And it was my current opponent that benefited from all of the money that Mr. Lindbergh had in 2016. So I just ask people to look there, look at what we've done, what we've accomplished, and that's the main thing. You know, we've helped in building inspections. We've really cut through the red tape to help the building inspections process. We've helped home builders and commercial builders save a lot of time that's translated into money saved, which helps all of us and helps our economy. So I think by looking at those things, I hope people will see fit to vote for Mike Causey 2020.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And the things you're doing to promote law and order and the things that need to be done, super job. More and more I read about what DOI, your Department of Insurance, does. I'm even more and more impressed. Learning more, but getting that message out to the people of North Carolina, because a lot of people just don't realize how important your position is. And when they listen to this tape, because we're going to make this available to everyone, those are listening on Facebook, live streaming now, get a much better appreciation for what you do and what you've accomplished for us. I want to hand it back over to you for closing. You take as long as you want with regard to why Mike Causey and what do we need to do to help promote you and donate to you, support you.
Thank you, Alan. Again, thank you for having me on this production. As you said, most people don't realize what's under the North Carolina Department of Insurance. When I was running, I would go around and telling people that I was running for insurance commissioner. People would say, what kind of insurance do you sell? Well, the Department of Insurance doesn't sell insurance, it regulates insurance. So it's one of those down ballot races that people are not very aware, and most people have no idea that the insurance commissioner is the state fire marshal, the chief building inspector for the state, regulates collection agencies, bail bondsmen, manufactured housing, engineering codes. I oversee 23 state boards and commissions. So if people out there are wanting to serve on a state board or commission, give us a call. Every few months, people come off these boards. We have to have new people to appoint. We're working with pharmacy benefit manager, helping the small independent pharmacies. We've been involved with that. We've set up task force for body shops. That's automobile repair body shops, life and health insurance agents, property casualty insurance agents, all of those things. And so I'm really at the mercy of people to tell their friends, neighbors, and families about the Department of Insurance and send out my campaign website, MikeCauseyNC.com, to your friends and family. Ask folks to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram or Twitter, or anything else that's out there you can send to us. Anybody has a radio show, a TV show, or something that you would like for me to appear and answer questions, I'll be happy to do that as time permits in these next 100 and some days till the election. But it's an honor and privilege for me to serve as your insurance commissioner and state fire marshal. I just thank everybody for their interest in North Carolina politics. I've worked well, I think, with all members of our state legislature to help people, to put people first, and to get results. And I think our results speak for themselves. And I just thank you all for what you do. And I look at it like this: you're the boss, the people are the boss, and I work for you. And so I would really appreciate the opportunity to continue what we've been doing in the past 4 years for the next 4 years. So MikeCauseyNC.com. Thank you, and God bless.
Mike, thanks for that. I look forward to getting to know you better and working with you and campaigning with you, because you were probably the underdog in 2016. You proved that you could start a grassroots movement, work in the rural areas, and make a difference. The word got out about you, your capabilities, your integrity, your character, and that's what it's all about. Myself, being a member of retired military like you, or formed a service in the military like several people here in Wake County that are running for office, I think it's important that we get the message out that we stand for discipline, we stand for decisive leadership. We're not afraid to make a tough decision. We come with organizational skills, things of that nature. I too am running up against a career politician. She ran the ACLU for the state of North Carolina. Belief is she has ambitions on higher office. Those things don't matter to me, because I came into this to try and make a difference for Wake County, just like you're trying to make a difference for the state of North Carolina. How Wake County goes, we want to keep it red. We want to keep the state of North Carolina red. So that's probably the most important thing for me. I want to make a difference for not only my family, but also for my grandkids, whether it's education, healthcare, for the environment, things we need to do for immigration reform. So the things you do with regard to what you do in the insurance industry, my hat's off to you. So I do want to do whatever I can to assist you with your campaign, so we can work together on that. Swain for Congress continues to try and hold these town halls that are of meaning to the North Carolinians, whether it's just Wake County or whether it's all of North Carolina. That's why we had Dale Falwell. We've had Dan Forrest. Now you're the third with the Council of States. We plan on bringing in the public instruction superintendent. The goal is to educate and make available key leaders within the state of North Carolina, so these people can ask you tough questions, because you represent them, but they want to know what you're doing for them. So you've answered all those questions in an excellent manner. So I appreciate that. So going forward, we'll probably want to do something of this nature again. Hopefully, bring in other members of the Council of State, so all of you can speak about things you're doing. So I think those are good. We continue to do these things. If you come up with other ideas on how we can help you, please let us know, Swain for Congress, or even the Wake County and State GOP. I know they're helping you significantly. We are all for law and order, the rule of law. We're trying to change things that are going on downtown to promote and protect the livelihoods of a lot of the homeowners downtown on Fayetteville Street. It's happening in all the cities. We intend on Wednesday, weather permitting, to do a Back the Blue, Feed the Blue. The intent is to have a initiative so we can show the men in blue and your firefighters, the men in red, to show them that we are fully behind them 100%. A lot of initiative, a lot of excitement by the North Carolinians. So everything you do, Mike, we appreciate, and anything we can do to assist you, we will do going forward. This has been a great opportunity to get to know Mike Causey, our Commissioner of Insurance, and why we need to re-elect him in November. So I appreciate all of you for participating in this. If you have other future questions and desire other future town halls with us, please just go to Swain for Congress, drop us at info@swainforcongress.com. And we're looking at several other initiatives with regard to follow up to public safety with several members of Raleigh Police Department and things of that nature, along with the former sheriff of Wake County. All those kinds of initiatives are going to make a difference. We got a lot of groundswell from people within Wake County and the state of North Carolina want to participate and support. Back in the blue and show our support. We don't need to be defunding. We need to be increasing our budgets with regard to helping with training to help those young men and women that are first frontline defenders and our firefighters. If you didn't hear what happened in Virginia last week in Virginia Beach, we had firefighters first on scene for a motorcycle accident that occurred. And because it took them more than 3 minutes to get on site, Mike, just so you know this, the people that were there videotaping attacked the firefighters while they're trying to do first aid and life-saving techniques on the individual. Now, the individual actually perished en route to the hospital because they were fighting off people that were upset that it took them so long. So we've got a problem going on, and we need to nip this in the bud now. So your work and effort that you're doing as our fire marshal and our commissioner of insurance are critical to us. Well, we want to make a difference too at the congressional level, and that's my job, to represent Wake County, represent the state of North Carolina, and make a difference and deny Democrats control of the House of Representatives. So I thank you there too. I didn't mean to talk that long about myself, but the passion comes out just like it does when you speak, Mike. So thank you very much, and thank you for all in attendance. And we look forward to our next critical town hall, where we're going to talk about some mental health issues, public safety, and a few other hot topics, along with the public instruction superintendent. So thank you, and have a good evening, all of you, tonight. Thank you. Bye-bye.